Amniocentesis, on the other hand, has a positive effect also, that is to detect some of the defects in the baby and all that. But apart from that, they can use it to determine the sex of the baby also, which is very bad. One of the main thing about sexually transmitted diseases, the female will be infected with the sexually transmitted disease and she will not have any symptoms, and that can lead to a lot of complications later. Hello everyone, a warm welcome to this session of concept class for class 12th biology. I'm Dr. Divya, biology faculty. So in this session, that is of chapter 3 reproductive health, we will learn about medical termination of pregnancy, and also we'll learn about the reasons of infertility in males and females. So talking about medical termination of pregnancy, which in short is called as MTP. So this is one of the important questions. So medical termination of pregnancy is nothing but intentionally or voluntarily termination of pregnancy before the full term or before the child completely develops. That is in the before the first 3 months of the child's development itself. If the pregnancy is terminated or if it is removed, we call it as medical termination of pregnancy. So the termination can be intentional, because intentional means, say for example, there is a woman who is pregnant. So when she goes for a first scan, if she finds out that if the family finds out that the baby is a girl, then they'll try to, without the consent of the woman itself, they'll try to get it aborted. So that is intentionally. And next is voluntary, means due to some reason the woman itself, she'll be ready to voluntarily get the abortion done or terminate the pregnancy. So that is about medical termination of pregnancy. So the government of India legalized MTP, that is medical termination of pregnancy, in the year 1971. Now, we need to know that it was legalized only under strict conditions. This is very, very important. So, strict conditions, sometimes the fetus that is developing may pose a threat to the life of the mother. So, that time the mother will have all the rights to abort the child or go in for MTP. Or sometimes the child might be born with a lot of defects. So that time also the parents can decide whether the child has to be retained or the fetus has to be retained or it should be removed. So under strict conditions only, the government of India legalized medical termination of pregnancy in the year 1971. So there are some advantages of medical termination of pregnancy. Let's look into what they are. So one thing is, unwanted pregnancies can be got rid of. So sometimes the couple will not be in a position to bear a child, or their family condition or their economy will not be in such a situation that they are capable of bearing a child. But for some reasons, naturally, the woman conceives and she becomes pregnant. So in such cases, they can get the pregnancy terminated. Next, cases where continuation of the pregnancy could harm either to the mother or to the fetus or both. As I told you, sometimes the mother's condition won't be in such a way that she's capable of carrying that child the entire pregnancy. There might be some complications which might pose a threat to the mother's life. In such conditions, medical termination of pregnancy is quite helpful. Or say something like the fetus, it might have some of the defects, and it will have to live with those defects lifelong. So in such conditions also, the parents can opt for MTP. Next important advantages, it will decrease the population. So population also expansion will be put to a curb, or it will decrease the population. Next, talking about disadvantages of medical termination of pregnancy. Like how it has advantages, equally there are some disadvantages also. One is, it is only safe during the first trimester, that is up to first to third month. Only during this period the pregnancy can be terminated. After that, if the pregnancy is tried to be terminated, it can cause death of the mother also, or it can cause a lot of complications in the mother. So only it is safe during the first trimester. But later on, maybe some birth defects can be identified later on, and at that time, that is after the third month and all that, at that time MTPs cannot be done. So that is one of the disadvantage. And sometimes though MTP is legalized with certain restrictions or with strict conditions in the year 1971, but still it is performed illegally by many doctors. Say for example, there is a family who's preferring only the boy child. They don't want the girl child. So they'll bribe the doctor and ask him to terminate the pregnancy without the consent of the mother. So therefore, medical MTPs can be performed illegally, and MTPs can be misused to determine the sex. So we have learned about a term called as amniocentesis. So amniocentesis, on the other hand, has a positive effect also, that is to detect some of the defects in the baby and all that. But apart from that, they can use it to determine the sex of the baby also, which is very bad. So, and next is, it can lead to a lot of female feticides. As I told you, in most of the villages in India, even today, they prefer a boy child rather than having a girl child. So once they get to know that the fetus that is there in the womb is a girl, they'll try to forcefully make the mother or force the doctor to terminate the pregnancy. Therefore, it can lead to a lot of female feticides. Next, we'll talk about sexually transmitted diseases. So, sexually transmitted diseases, knowing about this is very, very important, and what to be done during when we contract an STD, what needs to be done, we will understand here. So, sexually transmitted diseases, which is commonly called as STDs, or it is called as venereal disease, that is VD, or it is also called as reproductive tract infections, that is RTI. So what are these? They are usually passed from the male partner to the female partner. So there are different types of sexually transmitted diseases: gonorrhea, syphilis, genital herpes, chlamydiasis. So genital herpes is viral. Then chlamydiasis, it is again fungal. Then we have genital warts. Trichomoniasis is again fungal. Hepatitis B, HIV, which leads to AIDS. All these are sexually transmitted diseases which is contracted during intercourse or during copulation. So let's study about the symptoms of sexually transmitted diseases. Knowing about this is very, very important to maintain the overall health and also the reproductive health of the individual. One thing is itching, fluid discharge, mild or slight pain, swellings, etc. in the genital region. So whatever it is, sometimes itchy can be because of the weather condition or whatever, it's always better to get it checked by a gynecologist or a doctor concerned with this STDs. Next is infected females may often be asymptomatic. One of the main thing about sexually transmitted diseases, the female will be infected with the sexually transmitted disease and she will not have any symptoms, and that can lead to a lot of complications later. So even then, it is better to get it checked once in a while, or better to check the reproductive organs and all that once in a while. So if sexually transmitted diseases are not treated at the right time, then it can lead to a permanent disease or disorder which is called as pelvic inflammatory disease. And if not treated at the right time, and if the woman gets pregnant, then these STDs, that is the various viruses or fungi or bacteria or yeast which is causing these STDs, they can travel to the fetus and they can cause problems in the fetus or problems in the uterus of the women, leading to abortions. And if it causes problems in the fetus, it can lead to stillbirth. Stillbirth means in the womb itself, the baby will be dead and the mother will have to deliver the baby, because abortion can't be done after 3 months. So she'll have to deliver the baby as it is. So stillbirths can occur. Then ectopic pregnancies can occur. Ectopic pregnancies means sometimes because of the sexually transmitted diseases, the blockage of the tube will occur and all that, and the fertilized ova, the egg, will not be able to reach the uterus and embed itself there. So therefore what will happen, the fertilized ova will not be able to embed itself there. So sometimes what happens, the pregnancies, the fertilized ova can get embedded in the fallopian tube itself, and apart from the uterus it can get embedded, it will get embedded anywhere else apart from the uterus, and the child development will start there. That will lead to a lot of complications during the childbirth. So therefore it can lead to ectotopic pregnancies, and it can lead to infertility. If it is not treated properly, then the uterus can get harmed, the fallopian tubes can get harmed, the ovaries can get harmed, leading to infertility. Or even if in severe cases, say for example, that is genital herpes, or we have this HPV, that is human papilloma virus. Nowadays vaccines are available for that. All those viruses can even cause cancer of the reproductive tract. For example, human papilloma virus is one of the viruses that are causing a lot of cervical cancers and all that, and it is a sexually transmitted disease itself. So all this needs to be taken into concern. So therefore getting proper treatment at the right time is very, very important. So the symptoms that we studied of sexually transmitted diseases are itching, fluid discharge, slight pain, swellings in the genital region, and to some extent, some of the infected females, they can be asymptomatic also without having any symptoms. So when they are asymptomatic, finally when they are at the childbearing time, what happens is they'll not be able to conceive. So when they go to the gynecologist, then they'll get to know what the actual problem is. So to avoid all these, to avoid complications later, so avoid complications such as PIDs, abortions, stillbirths and so on, it is always better to get it checked and take the treatment at the right time. So how to prevent STDs? So one thing is to avoid sex with unknown partners, because we will not know that what kind of STD is that person carrying or suffering from. So therefore avoid sex with unknown partners or multiple partners. So this can prevent HIV. And always use condoms during coitus, that is during copulation. And also whenever there is any symptom that is similar to the STD also, it is always advised to visit a qualified doctor so that early detection can be done and complete treatment can be given to cure that particular disease at the right time. And one should be educated and should have awareness about the sexually transmitted diseases and its symptoms. And also during blood transfusion and all that, it is always better to use sterilized needles and syringes, so that during blood transfusion the HIV will not spread from an infected person to a healthy person. So all this can be done. So these are the prevention methods for STDs. So next we'll talk about infertility. So STDs is one of the reasons for infertility if not treated at the right time. So we'll learn what infertility is, which can occur both in the male and the female. So infertility means the absence of bearing or the incapability of bearing a child. So why? Because either the ova will not be produced in the female or healthy sperms will not be produced in the male. Let's look into what are the reasons for infertility. So one is physical. Too much of physical activities can also lead to infertility, and some of the congenital diseases can lead to infertility. Uses of some of the unwanted drugs can lead to infertility. And also infertility can be because it can be immunological, because of the way our immune system is functioning, or even it can be psychological also, because because too much of stress we take, it will also lead to infertility. So always we need to maintain our cortisol levels. Next, often female is the one who is blamed if she's not able to bear a child. Always the blame is put on the female. The female is the main reason for not bearing a child, but it's not true. Most of the time it is the male partner, because of the infertility problem in the male partner, or the male partner is not producing quite active sperms which are needed for the fertilization of the egg. All that can also lead to infertility. and how can infertility be detected and how can it be treated. So infertility can be detected in specialized healthcare units such as infertility clinics, wherein the couples can go there, they can take the suggestions and they can get advanced treatment to bear a child. So we'll talk about what are the causes of infertility. So what are the advanced treatment? There are various assisted reproductive technologies and all that which the infertility clinics will provide, so that the couples, though they are infertile, because of these advanced technologies, they can bear a child. So what are those ARTs? We'll study in the next coming session. So in this session, because we have learnt about infertility, the reasons for infertility, let's talk about the causes of infertility in male and female separately. So causes of infertility in male is low semen quality, that is low semen count, and also the quality of the semen is not that good, that is the semen is not, or it is not producing active sperms. Low sperm count, which is called as oligospermia. So oligospermia means low sperm count, that is only thousands, millions of sperms will be produced, out of that only 1,000 will get produced. So low sperm count can also be one of the reasons for infertility. And absence of sperm, that is not producing any sperms, which is called as azoospermia, that can also be a reason for infertility. And sexual dysfunction can also be a reason for, that is some problems in the genital tract can also be a reason for the infertility in male. So next, talking about the causes of infertility in female. One is polycystic ovarian syndrome, which we often called as PCOS, then PCOD. All these are nothing but small cyst will start to develop on the ovary. So these cysts will prevent the formation of the eggs, that is it will prevent the maturation of the follicles. So these cysts are nothing but they are the follicles which have not matured at all, they remain there and they form the cyst. So when that happens, when mature ova is not produced, it is nothing but one of the reasons for infertility. Next is age-related factors, that is usually as and when the women ages, that is after 35 or after 32 itself, their fertility rate will go down. So age is also one of the reasons for infertility. Next is uterine problems. Sometimes what happens, they'll not have a healthy uterine which is capable of bearing a child. They'll have a lot of uterine related issues. So that can also lead to infertility because, okay, everything else is healthy. The sperm has reached the egg, ova, fertilization has taken place, it formed a zygote, then the zygote has to come and embed itself in the endometrium of the uterus, right? Now if there itself some problem is there, then how can the embryo survive there? So therefore uterine problems is one of the causes for infertility. Next is blockage or damage to fallopian tube. Sometimes because of some diseases or because of some urinary infections and all that, it can harm the fallopian tube, the bacteria, whatever is causing the urinary infections, it can go and it can block the fallopian tube. So once the fallopian tube is blocked, the sperm can't pass and even the ova also can't pass. So therefore it will be a problem for conceiving a child. So therefore blockage or damage in fallopian tube can also be one of the factors for infertility. So previous tubal ligation is nothing but the sterilization technique. If you remember, we had studied about that is in female it was tubectomy. So if tubectomy is already done, then it is not possible for the female to conceive. So therefore previous sterilization method also is one of the reasons for infertility in females. So these are the causes or reasons for infertility in females. So this was about the session wherein we learned about medical termination of pregnancy, and also we got to know about some of the sexually transmitted diseases and how can we prevent the sexually transmitted diseases and how sexually transmitted disease can lead to infertility, and also what are the other causes of infertility in males and females we got to know. So in the next coming session, we'll completely talk about assisted reproductive technologies, that is those couples which are infertile who are not capable of bearing a child, they can go into some of the advanced technologies which are called as which assists the couples in reproduction or in childbirth. So about those we'll study, and there are some disadvantages also in the assisted reproductive technology. So we'll discuss about that as well. So see you in the next coming session. Thank you.